Hi, this is Beth Botts from the Morton Arboretum. You're listening to Smart Talk. The Mike Nowak Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I really don't understand why everybody isn't following the same rules right now. They're very clear, so let's take a minute and let's go over them again. First, you must not leave the house for any reason, unless of course you have a reason, and then you may leave the house. All stores are closed except those that are open, and all stores must close unless, of course, they need to stay open. This virus is deadly, but don't be afraid of it. It can only kill people who are vulnerable and also those who are not vulnerable. We should stay locked down until the virus stops infecting people. And it will only stop infecting people if enough of us get infected that we build immunity. So it is very important that we get infected and also do not get infected. The virus remains active on different surfaces for 2 hours or 4 hours or 6 hours, but in most cases it's days and not hours, and it needs a damp environment or a cold environment that is warm and dry in the air, unless the air is plastic. If you are home educating, you can include household chores within their education curriculum, and if you are home educating, you may start drinking at approximately 10 a.m. every day. If you are not home educating children, you may also start drinking at approximately 10 a.m. Stay home. I don't know how many more celebrities we need to have tell you how important it is to go outside and take care of your mental health. There is no shortage of groceries in the supermarket. There are simply many things missing. The number of corona-related deaths will be announced daily, but we don't know how many people are infected because we were only testing those who are almost dead to determine if that's what they will die of. The people who die of corona who are not counted won't or will be counted, but maybe not. And finally, no businesses will go down due to coronavirus except those businesses that go down due to COVID-19. I hope this cleared up any questions about what we should and should not be doing during this time. Please educate your friends and family with this information so we can remove any and all confusion surrounding this time. Thank you.
It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio, flavored with a dash of humor. Welcome to intelligent, irreverent talk about plants and the planet they grow on. Your questions, comments, and participation are always welcome at 877-711-5611.
Good planets are hard to find. Temperate zones and tropic climes, and true currents and thriving seas. Wind blowing through breathing trees. Strong ozone and safe sunshine. Well, good planets are hard to find. Good planets are in demand.
This hour is brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com.
Jet streams, perfect air.
And here they are, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
Well, good planets are in demand. Right.
Righty indeed.
Right out.
Hey, welcome to the show. Good morning. And I just realized as I turned on my mic and I'm speaking to everybody that I didn't actually do a mic check with Randall. How am I sounding there, Randall? Is it coming in okay?
You sound great.
Okay, good. Let's just make sure.
Hello?
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 Are you there? You're there, Peggy.
Am I here? I'm here. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
You know, and I'm trying to figure out, here we are, like week 8 of this mission. And why is it that as each week goes by, I look more and more like an axe murderer? And Peggy, you never change. You just look great every Sunday morning. I don't know what I'm either turning into an axe murderer or a college professor. I cannot figure out which. It's going to be one.
For those who aren't watching on Facebook, you've got this goatee and mustache.
Yeah, that's what I
going.
mean. I mean, this is. I need the jacket with the things on the sleeves here, but instead I've got the shirt that says Tom. So this is the only clean shirt I got in the house.
And I went with Paisley today. So
I noticed that. So, and our next guest, Gary Oppenheimer, our first guest, wants to know if Paisley's coming back. So you get to answer that question when we come back, because Gary Oppenheimer from ampleharvest.org is with us, and he's going to tell everybody how we can feed America during this time of crisis, and it has to do with your backyard and growing stuff. Go figure. You know, look at the show you're listening to. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, and we will be right back. Okay, yeah. Now I have to say, and I had to shush you just a little bit there, Gary, because I needed to hear that song, "Why Get Up." It is the original COVID-19 song, except it's from the '80s.
Yeah.
The Fabulous Thunderbirds predicted this pandemic, so they created the song "Why Get Up." And I want to see a show of hands of all the folks watching and listening right now who have been known in the last few weeks to sleep to 10 a.m. Okay, thank you. Oh, look, we've got all the hands up of our guests and hosts here.
That's what Saturdays are for.
Any 11 a.m.s here? I've got my hand in. Oh, I'm in. And I was going to ask about noon, and my hand would stay up in the air. So
That's where your little gizmo. No.
Yeah. Oh, right. Well, I've got my little phone gizmo here. Wait. No. All right. So there you go. My pen of no. No. Yes. Sleep forever. Well, yeah. That's what you do now. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. A couple of things at the top of the show. That long bit, I had to play that because a friend of mine sent that to me, and I had not seen it before. And it's a woman who has a YouTube page called The Adley Show, and I just thought it was pretty funny. I mean, all of the information we get about COVID-19 seems to be contradictory. In fact, our former president says
that makes no sense.
Exactly. And so some of it's funny, some of it's tragic, but I thought she was very funny. She's got like 3 million hits on that. That's what I call viral.
How do people do that? Oh.
Well, what she did was very, very funny.
Yes. I'm just figuring out the overall viral thing, though.
I was really impressed, and I thought, why didn't I do that? So I guess that's my next move is to do a viral bit. Yeah, easier said than done. But I just wanted to give her credit for that. And tell you that today we're talking about food. Gosh, we've done that a lot on the show, but it is important. And let's go right to our guest who's sitting very patiently with his long mane behind. Look at that. If those of you watching on Facebook Live and YouTube Live can see Gary Oppenheimer. I see I got the name of your organization right, but not yours. Gary Oppenheimer, who has been on the show before. And now, have you had your hair that long for a while, or is this something new?
Much to my daughter's and wife's distress, originally since probably 1996.
Okay, I go back and forth. See, I've been known to have shoulder length hair, and then I cut it off. I get tired of it, and because here's the thing about long hair: when it looks good, it's awesome. When it looks bad, it's terrible. And then when the bad hair days start to outnumber the good hair days, then it's time to get it cut.
It came in handy for me once because years ago I was at a conference at the White House, and I'm just sitting with other people in an audience, and people are in the dais in front, and they said, "You're going to be live streamed on the White House video stream." I texted my daughter. She went on. She got a screen capture from the camera through the back of the one ponytail to the person speaking, and she posted that on her social media.
And you are famous and infamous in White House history. Hey, can you get me at some time in the future an invitation to the White House? Maybe not in the next few months, but
not the next few months, I'm sure.
No.
Gary is the founder of an organization called ampleharvest.org, and you can go to ampleharvest.org and find out all about it. I'm going to let you explain before we talk about your big news, because you had big news this week. Mm-hmm. Before we do that, give folks an idea of what ampleharvest.org is all about.
I'm happy to. Thank you for having me back. And by the way, let me start by saying the fact that you used the word viral several times was great, because every time I've used the word viral when we describe ampleharvest.org, I've recently been told that's not such a good word to use right now. So I'm just saying, Ample Harvest, yeah, we're 11 years old this month, so we've been here for a long time. It is the only program that we know of its kind in the country, and its goal is to solve the problems of the missing information and misinformation that have prevented America's 42 million gardeners from donating their food to local food pantries historically. They didn't know they could donate the food. That was the misinformation. And the missing information was they didn't know to where and an ideal time. So ampleharvest.org today is at work in 4,100 communities in all 50 states with around 8,600 food pantries. So that I'm about to say this number and it's pre-COVID. Our 42 million gardeners in America, and it's pre-COVID because right now the industry is saying there are millions more new gardeners. You can't buy seeds easily anymore because they've been sold out.
Yeah.
Seedlings are still available, but so we know there are tens of millions of new gardeners that are across the nation, and hopefully they'll be staying gardening after COVID is gone. But to get that wonderful garden produce to the food pantries in their community, we know that on a collective basis, the gardeners of America grow enough surplus, and this is the surplus, aside from what they eat for themselves, to feed 28 million hungry people a year. Post-COVID, with this new surge in gardening, that number is going to skyrocket to we don't know what yet. But this is a program, it's entirely cloud-based, it's a nonprofit, and it's the only program where the focus isn't food, but awareness and enablement for the gardeners. Once they're connected to a food pantry in their own neighborhood, for the rest of their gardening life, let's assume that's 20 years of gardening, they'll be donating food from their garden. This is amazing for reducing hunger. It's incredible for reducing malnutrition in a community, because for the first time, people at a food pantry can get fresh food rather than processed food. We talked about the White House. We were very fortunate to have the support of Michelle Obama's Let's Move initiative. We still have a support from the USDA and the EPA, work with all the Feeding America food banks in America, work with the major gardening organizations, work with the faith community. This is to bring together a large number of support of different organizations and parts of America to bring together the two universes that we've had living side by side. The universe of 42 million gardeners, and in the same neighborhood, the universe of what was 42 million hungry people. That number we know is growing right now as the demand on the food bank system is temporarily climbing.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about you being an online-based organization, and I see you as a conduit or a facilitator, just connecting people, connecting gardens to food pantries. So connecting gardeners to people who need their food. And I did a little check just the other day, because you can go to ampleharvest.org and you type in your zip code and it'll tell you in your area. And I did the 15, I was going to do like a 1 mile radius because I knew that we'd have stuff pop up, but I think the lowest number is 15-mile radius. And I got a place that I can walk to from here on Francisco Avenue. I could walk right over, and there's a half a dozen that I could walk to if I given a little time, and schlep the bag of zucchini over my shoulder. And that is the wonderful thing about your website and what you're doing is this. It's really easy if gardeners want to step up. I'm kind of curious about why there was this disconnect for so long. You mentioned that at the start. That seems odd. Do you have any theories on that?
Yeah. By the way, I do want to mention one thing first. This is the only food program we know of where social distancing is built into the model, and was built in before I even knew the word social distancing, because it's the only program where you don't have teams of volunteers or teams of gleaners, but the gardener themselves doing everything. Historically, every food drive you've ever gone to, the same mantra was used: jars, cans, boxes, no fresh food. And that was in large part, not that they didn't want the fresh food, but the path the food traveled from a food drive to a regional Feeding America food bank to the local food pantry could take days or weeks, which is fine for jars and cans and boxes, but not for your tomatoes and not for your lettuce, etc. What I did was effectively, and again, this is before the word ever existed, Uberized the system. I enabled you, the gardener, to donate to the food pantry that's, Mike, walking distance from your house, or maybe driving distance, because that you didn't know existed, and facilitate the donation so your food comes in a few hours before the food insecure families come in to take it home. This means, number one, the food pantry does not need to buy costly refrigeration or storage. More importantly, the hungry family is getting truly garden fresh food. It's gone from your garden to their dinner table in hours. That's food fresher than you and I could buy in a supermarket. And this is something that would happen year after year after year. It was merely connecting, as I said, these two universes of a more than ample supply of nutrition and the desperate need for that nutrition in communities across America.
And now that we have the COVID-19 crisis on my blog, and you can go to mikenovak.net, take a look at what I wrote in anticipation of this conversation. You've seen the stories. It's odd. Back in the day, back in the Great Depression, you saw lines of people outside of food banks and other soup kitchens is what they called them at the time. And lines around down blocks. Now you see cars. It's a weird juxtaposition in my mind to say, now, this is the 21st century. Our lines are now automobiles that stretch for miles and miles and miles. And the comments you hear from the people in those lines are very similar. A lot of them say, I never thought I would be in this position. And that's why what you're doing, Gary, is so important right now. It was always important. It's only going to, right now, this is the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure you're looking at this as a crisis that's going to get bigger as we get into summer.
Oh, I hope not, but you're probably right. I do want to say one important thing, by the way. You're absolutely right about that car thing. For the millions of people who are suddenly finding themselves in need of a food pantry, need of assistance putting food on the table, there's a statistically 35% likelihood that those same people are themselves gardeners. This is the amazing opportunity to say, I need to go to a food pantry to get food for my family. But I'm also growing more tomatoes in my backyard than I can use. So I'm going to bring tomatoes from my garden that I can't use to the food pantry to donate them, while I'm picking up cornflakes and bread and cheese from the food pantry to feed my family. This is that rare opportunity for people who are in need to themselves help their neighbors in need on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things I was reading, a couple of the articles you had posted, Mike, was also that a lot of the restaurants and casinos and institutions that used to donate the fresh food, they're not open right now. So pantries are giving away macaroni and cheese and canned beans and things like that. And so even more of a reason.
Yeah, and you need the nutrition. I mean, if you're going to try to keep your immune system at optimum so that you won't get the virus, or maybe you're recovering from the virus and the best thing for you is fresh food. I mean, that's just a given. And this is that great opportunity for America to pull itself up by its own bootstraps or garden straps.
And to keep, for people not just to recover now, but to stay healthy, because this is not just magically going away.
No,
let's hope it does. But
despite what you hear, I don't want to even go down that road.
No.
Let me just say that this is week 8 that we've been doing this. I plan to do this for much longer. I think it's going to keep on going, and I'm just trying to be as smart as I can. And I'm looking at the science. I'm just looking at the science and saying, okay, well, the science tells you if you gather together, people are going to get sick. If you stay apart, it gives us a chance to get ahead of this. And then while we're trying to get ahead of this, our economy is in a tailspin, and that's why we have ampleharvest.org, people like Gary Oppenheimer to help us get through this so that we can get the economy back on its feet again. All right, we've got just 30 seconds, so I'm just going to mention the magic name, Bonnie Plants. Give them a little ding as well, because that's the big news coming out of ampleharvest.org and Gary Oppenheimer. So keep that in your brain as we take a break here. We will be back with Gary. We're talking about how to feed folks across the country during COVID-19. It's Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, and we will be right back.
inside, ladies and gentlemen. You can't touch this. You literally cannot touch anything. Can't touch this. All right, second verse. Empty shelves. Long
That's what the
lines.
kitchen's
touch
for.
this.
Get wine.
That's what the kitchen and the living room are for, dancing.
And you can touch anything you want if you're in your own home.
If I tried that, my dog would be all over me.
Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We've got Gary Oppenheimer with us on the Zoom machine today, the founder and director of AmpleHarvest.org.
And we need to do a shout out too.
Oh, yes, let's do the shout out.
To Ingeborg Oppenheimer, who says she found the program. Good job, Gary.
Hi, Mom.
Okay. Your mom
Mom's
gets to do-
watching, so you better be careful, Gary. You better behave yourself there.
That's right.
Has she seen your hair?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And she approves.
I hope so, but I don't know.
Okay, moving on. We are talking about big news from AmpleHarvest.org in their effort to connect America's 42 million home gardeners with people who need the excess food that they grow in their yards. And again, you can go to AmpleHarvest.org. You type in your zip code, you can find out a pantry in your neighborhood. And if you've got that, you can take it over there. But the same thing I would imagine also, I know you're trying to get gardeners. The same thing also works for people who buy excess food, I would assume. Is that true?
It's usable if you buy excess food. We have farmers who are using it also at times when they have, for whatever reason, they can't unload their food, the market problem. And some farmers have used AmpleHarvest.org to connect with a local food pantry, although that sometimes is a problem because it's like feeding somebody with a fire hose. Many farms have too much food for what a pantry can handle. But I should say we also are used by millions of people who are themselves hungry and are looking for a pantry with fresh food.
And just this week, and Gary was very excited to tell me all about this, you have teamed up with Bonnie Plants, and they are the largest and only national supplier and producer of vegetable and herb plants in the country. And probably a lot of folks don't know that. Why is that they're the only ones who are doing something like that? Do you have any idea, Gary?
I don't know, but we are thrilled. Bonnie Plants is basically when you go into a store, you're either buying seeds or you're buying seedlings. And seedlings, of course, give you the head start on your garden because somebody grew a plant in a greenhouse for you, and you're now going home with a tomato or zucchini plant that's several inches tall, and it hasn't been eaten the moment it came out of the ground by an insect or a bird. So you're really ahead of the game.
Chipmunk.
Or a chipmunk, yes.
Or a slug.
Yeah.
Wide variety of things. So Bonnie came to AmpleHarvest.org and said, we love what you're doing. We want to help you. And we put a program together with Bonnie Plants that we're thrilled about. The program is called Grow More, Feed More, to both encourage and enable millions of more gardeners across America to both learn about their capacity to grow more food and to donate more food. This is going to include, and for me, this is like manna from heaven, signage in garden centers across the country, including the big box stores, something that we've wanted, so that when somebody goes into a big box store and buys a Bonnie plant or something, there'll be a sign there saying, hey, you can donate your surplus, because for us, educating the nation's gardeners is the heaviest lift that we have in terms of changing the entire food ecosystem. Bonnie Plants is converted all of their corporate gardens into feeding gardens, and they're going to be donating all of the surplus from their gardens to local food pantries. But they also set a very ambitious but also very attainable goal of being responsible for 10 million new pounds of fresh food from gardeners across America getting to local food pantries.
Wow.
I'm
That's
convinced
great.
we're going to go way past that 10 million pounds, but that's the goal that that was set. And it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. I think it's a important step for corporate America to look at you, the backyard gardener, and say, you're an important part of the future health of this nation, and we want to do what we can to enable that and to promote that on a vast scale. And we keep on saying 42 million gardeners. It's important to remember that's pre-COVID. The information
Yeah.
I'm getting from the industry, including people at Bonnie Plants, is it may be tens of millions more. And the important thing is going to be at the end of the crisis, most of those people, I suspect, will continue to be gardeners, which means the landscape of nutrition in America is going to be dramatically different and dramatically improved. I want to add one final note. When I had my final meeting with the Let's Move people at the White House, Michelle Obama had said that at that point, 1 out of 3 and soon 1 out of 2 kids in America were going to grow up diabetic. The more fresh food we get to families, the better the opportunity for that to not be happening and for us to have healthier families, healthier children growing up permanently. I also wanted to say that.
So let me jump in there because our assistants Kayla and Hannah are watching this, and they need to tweet that out in case that got by them. So Michelle Obama was saying that right now 1/3 of kids in America are diabetic, and it's soon to be half of all children in America are diabetic.
Back in the Obama administration when we were given that information.
And there's no reason that has changed in the past few years. In fact, it's undoubtedly gotten worse.
And with more food insecurity, it will get even worse.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but that was just too important for me to let it get away.
No, and I appreciate it because it's really important because there's 2 parts of feeding a community. One is to give you food, and the other is to give you nourishing food. I can give you potato chips and you'll have a full belly, but you're not going to be nourished.
Right.
So, okay, Frito-Lay's not going to like that, but.
Right. And it's the ongoing cycle, though, of if you are undernourished, if you're growing up, obese and with diabetes, you're going to be more prone to disease in the future, including COVID.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a vicious cycle.
So we had another piece of news I want to share in addition to Bonnie Plants. And Bonnie Plants, I think, is the big news. It seriously is. First of all, by the way, if you can't find seeds in your gardening center where you normally go to buy seeds to start your garden, go online at Bonnie Plants. They got lots of stuff online, and they're actually making contributions to ampleharvest.org for what you buy online. So go buy it.
5% of all plant sales.
Yes.
Which is great. And when you think about that, you might not think, well, that's 5%. That doesn't seem like a lot. On the other hand, Bonnie Plants is a very big organization. So that's going to mean a lot of money for you guys.
Yeah. And I want to translate that money. I'm glad you mentioned that because a team from the Harvard Business School Alumni Association this past winter, pre-COVID, helped Ample-Harvest.org with doing an analysis of our data and our numbers and on top of what Cisco Systems had done years earlier. And they came up with some amazing stuff. And I want to just spend a moment on this. It's really important. We've talked earlier about the viral nature of ampleharvest.org. The viral component is that once you, Mike, know that you can donate food thanks to ampleharvest.org, you'll turn around and tell Peggy, your next door neighbor, and Peggy will tell her next door neighbor. This spreads virally, which means the money, the donations that come into
watch that word. You keep using that word viral.
It's the best word for this.
Exponentially.
I'm sorry, I meant it. Yeah,
it spreads exponentially.
The spread of the awareness is critically important. The Harvard Business School team did an analysis. Now, I'll make it very simple. They computed that if somebody gave ampleharvest.org $100 a year for 10 years, in the first year, the donations in pounds from gardeners across America would be 206 pounds of food. But at 10 years, it would be up to 37,000 pounds because of the expansion. And in 20 years, that would have grown to 902,000 pounds of food. That's from somebody donating $100 a year for each year. That's how it grows. So it is a massively impactful solution. So the donations that we get from Bonnie Plants are not going to benefit us just this year, but for decades, and which means they're going to benefit America for decades. It's a huge opportunity for eliminating hunger on a massive scale in thousands and thousands of communities across the country.
And I noticed that they're already donating food. They had a couple of they have a test garden in Union Springs, Alabama, one in Marysville, Ohio. They've already been repurposed as giving gardens. And it's just all of the expected 5,000 plus pounds of food grown there will be donated straight to local food pantries in their respective communities. And that's the point. It's not going to any clearinghouse nationally. It stays in the neighborhood, which is part of the best thing. We've got about 40 seconds left, Gary. So I'm going to let you wrap it up here, okay?
Two things. Number one, that food that's donated locally has the lowest possible carbon footprint because it's traveled the shortest amount. The biggest thing that people can do if they garden is donate their surplus and help ampleharvest.org financially. And if you're not a gardener, just come to ampleharvest.org and donate. That helps us get millions of more gardeners with millions or literally billions more pounds of food to nourish America and get us through this difficult time. The country's having a difficult time. The gardeners of America are able to make it a little bit less difficult.
Perfect. You're good. Here, Mom, he's really good at this. Okay, go to ampleharvest.org. You can go to my website, MikeNovak.net. Gary Oppenheimer, such a pleasure to see you. Keep in touch, all right? And we'll talk about this as you move forward.
And let your hair grow out.
Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki.
Sleeping, I've done my share, man. I ain't been nowhere. I'm in the bedroom, bathroom, living room, dining room, attic, basement, just to find an old room, a hallway, driveway, same place as yesterday. Go look, read a book, jog around the breakfast hook, glass link, get a drink straight from the kitchen sink. Can't think, eyes blink, man, do my clothes stink. I ain't been.
Oh yeah, that is a great song, and I gotta thank our buddy Steve King from.
That was a great song, yeah.
Steve King and Johnny Putman fame from Gargantua Radio down the dial, who sent that along this week. Kathleen happened to see it, and she said, "You got to hear this." And it's a guy named Chuck Mead doing it. And of course, they're doing the social distancing, split screen music that everybody's doing right now. That's a great song, though. That the takeoff on. Now I'm going to forget who did the.
I've Been Everywhere, yeah. Johnny Cash.
No, Johnny Cash.
Well, he did the cover of it.
Yeah, he did a cover, but that wasn't the original, apparently. Now
I'll find it while you're reading the spot.
Okay, I was going to yell out to Kathleen. She said, "I didn't get plugged in." Who did the original?
I'll find it while you're doing the.
All right, she'll get that for us in a second. Anyway, hey, welcome to the
Hank Snow.
What?
Hank Snow.
Hank Snow. There we go. You can't top Peggy, Kathleen. There's no way you can beat her on researching something. Hey, she's yelling at me, Hank Snow. That news is 20 seconds old, Kathleen. Just letting you know. All right. Welcome. By the way, those of you listening, who are you yelling at? That is my partner, Kathleen. That I'm doing this from my living room. And she's at her computer at the other end of the living room, listening and doing her work and doing whatever and tuning into the show. And then when I need information, we have a contest. We see if Peggy can get it first or if Kathleen can get it first. And they're both researchers, so it makes for interesting times. Anyway, welcome to the Keep Eating Healthy campaign on the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. You heard about it on our air. You hear our commercials about it. If you're an omnivore, but seeing headlines about the safety of workers in meat plants makes you unhappy, there's an alternative. Cedar Valley Sustainable Farm CSA is a meat CSA. You know that the animals were raised with respect for them and respect for the earth. And now during the COVID-19 emergency, they're taking a la carte orders. It's, if you're under $50, it costs you $5. If you're a CSA member, it doesn't cost you anything. If it's over $50, it doesn't cost you anything. And you can have it, you go to the pickup point and it's all very safe and social distanced and masks, and they're doing it right. So I love Beth and Jody at Cedar Valley Sustainable Farm. There's also Backyard Patch Herbs, all locally grown and they're chemical free. Kathleen and I made an excellent cauliflower soup this week with their dried herb soup mix. I figure probably it doesn't matter where you are in the country. You could order from Backyard Patch Herbs and you can
She'll get them out right away for you.
Yeah, she does. She's really good about getting them out in the mail. You can, they've got different kinds of soup mixes. Like I said, we used one. You can also get herbal teas and bread mixes. There's no gluten, no salt, no preservatives. They even provide recipes and other information on their website. And then finally, on our Keep Eating Healthy trio, Prairie Fruits Farm and Creamery in Champaign, Illinois. They report that it's been a good spring. And now since last week, when I said they've got fresh chive and lemon zest chèvre, okay, and then I was saying how do you pronounce that? And all you guys were doing is scratching your heads, going, I don't know, I've never heard of it. All right, well, it's chevre is cheese made with goat milk. It's also the word for goat. Okay, so that's why it's called chevre. Now, I am not a cook. I'm full disclosure. So
You've been doing pretty good though.
I've been cooking a lot at home, more than I'm used to tell you the truth. But now I'm learning about things like chevre. And they also have Little Bloom on the Prairie, their first batch of goat milk camembert style cheese, and a fruit leather trio that they call Fruit Wowzers by Jeff Hake of Funks Grove Heritage Fruits and Grains. I can't read all of a sudden. Click on the Keep Eating Healthy logo at MikeNovak.net to order from all of these great operations. Help us support them while they support us. Go to MikeNovak.net, MikeNowak.net for more details. You can also go there to check the blog and to see some of my ravings, garden writing, that I'm bringing back some of my old columns from Chicagoland Gardening Magazine.
Mike's Dystopian World.
Yes. Well, the Mike's Dystopian Garden, which is different. So it's a world in the garden. And one thing that we found out right after we left, or just before Gary left us during the break, is we have the scoop on ampleharvest.org, working with Bonnie Plants. He said that the two people he thought of right away were me and Joe Lample, who is Joe Gardner, who's a very fancy guy. Okay, PBS and NPR and la-di-da. And we scooped Joe Lample. So yeah, I definitely want.
Basil's even barking over that one.
All right, well, good. Let's get Basil. Oh yes, something that Kathleen came by with I love the cue cards. We need more cue cards here, Kathleen. She's holding up cue cards to me and say, read this. And the cue card says, mention musical interlude. Well, today, and Michael, our engineer, I hope you're listening to this because we've got it all set up. We've got music. We're going to start doing these things called mini concerts. So if you watch us on Facebook or YouTube, we're going to be playing music during the news break at the top of the hour, coming up to 10 a.m. And today we've got Judy Handler and Mark Levesque, who are our friends, and they put together some songs that are going to play through there. We hope you enjoy it and possibly buy some of their CDs. That and they're helping us out during this time and
support local artists.
We thought it would be great. Yep. So you had a real quick story about hornets.
Hornets, yes.
Were you ready for something else? I thought that's what we were going to talk about.
Well, I was going to talk about Monty and Rose as well. But so the New York Times has this headline this week: Murder hornets in the U.S., the rush to stop the Asian giant hornet. Well, apparently there's another potentially very invasive critter coming over here, or it has been sighted already. It's an Asian giant hornet that is about 2 inches long, has huge mandibles, and is a huge threat to bees. It's in portions of the Pacific Northwest. They found it in Nanaimo, British Columbia, which is on Vancouver Island. 2 separate populations at least, and they're trying to track these things down because they think it could decimate native bees and honeybees.
Oh boy, just what we need.
Another one.
Yeah, there's always more coming up. Well, and I'm going to find a report. We found a report earlier in the day about the bees pollinating the almond crop in California. We were able to find like one article, so there's got to be more out there. I was kind of curious what was going on during the COVID-19 thing, and we're going to track that down and have more information on that because I think they've had some issues there. All right, stand by for our mini concert. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. For those of you listening on the network, Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. When I'm finding out at home, because I've got this set up, and when you're, we've talked about this on the show, watching the news programs, and you get to see everybody's background. And now I've seen people staging things, and our next guest has staged his background, but that's because he's an artist. Okay, he's an architect, and who's very careful about his image, and that's a good thing. But I've noticed now some people put books on their bookcases behind them. I don't know if they're trying to sell those books or just show what they read and how erudite they are. So
I
anyway,
use the plants in my background to cover up the mess behind me.
but I will say that it really is more of a mess here than you can imagine. And even just ducking out to go to the kitchen and try to rewarm my coffee or just go to the bathroom, there's always a danger I won't make it back in time for the next part of the show. It's scary. You can't do it really fast. But I wanted to mention that folks who watch us, now this is a radio show, and those of you, and this is one of the things I wanted to mention right now, and I forgot at the beginning of the show, on KOTA in Rapid City, South Dakota, they are now hearing both hours of our show that started last week. And I'm very excited about it because they get to hear the second hour today, and they'll get to hear Nate Kipnis in a second, our architect. And they'll hear Rick DeMeyer, our meteorologist. And I told him, give me a little, South Dakota weather there, maybe North and South Dakota and a little bit of northern Nebraska. What do you got for me there in eastern Wyoming? And let's see what you got. But Rick is great. You'll love his comments on weather and climate. And welcome to the folks. We love the folks who listen to us at KOTA in Rapid City, South Dakota. And we're so glad that there are now 2 hours of the show. So what happened, it bumped earlier. The show now starts at 9 a.m. So what you would have heard at 10 a.m. now happens at 9. And this is our second hour at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Write to us, Mike at MikeNovak.net, or go to the Facebook page, give us a like, and tell us you're listening in Rapid City, South Dakota, because we think you guys are great. We've had good response from there, and we're so glad we now have both hours of the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. And real quick, because we just got a couple of minutes here, we had some good news in Chicago, Peggy, that you might want to tell folks about.
Yeah, on May 1st, Chicago Ornithological Society posted that the famous Great Lakes plovers, which are endangered birds,
piping plovers,
Monty and Rose, who were very famous last year for being the first time nesting in more than 50 years in Chicago and moving a concert.
Moving a concert that was going to have 25,000 people over 2 days. And they were just part of the reason the concert didn't happen, but they were actually a very big part of that.
And they're back. They are setting up nesting. They're doing different behaviors that indicate that they are planning to establish a nest there this summer. So since the beaches are closed due to COVID-19, various organizations, including the Chicago Park District, are looking after them and will be fencing off the area, covering it up to keep predators out and everything else.
I'm just, Monty and Rose fly back in to Chicago from their 1,000-mile trip to the Southlands, and they come back and they look around, they go, hey, what happened to all the people?
Yeah, where is everybody?
Where did everybody go? They got to be really happy about this. So
they have Montrose Beach to themselves this year. Pretty
much, at least for another month, and maybe more than that, because the lakefront is the area that's the most difficult to keep people away from, and that's very controversial in itself. All right, when we come back, we're going to be talking about your home in the age of COVID-19. How do you keep it healthy? How do you keep it safe? We're talking with architect Nate Kipnis when we come back. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Please stick around.
Know that you matter, yeah.
See, I got serious there for a second and put the Alicia Keys song. Of course, she's singing to me. And those of you watching on Facebook and on the YouTube, with my ears flopping around here, this is my
that just looks bizarre.
I know, it's the guy mowing the
lawn.
But
your headphones going in and out, in and out.
It is odd. but I love that. Now I'm playing around with the background because our guest right here. I'm going to go back to none here.
Thanks, Nate. Look what you just did.
Nate, you've created a monster here. All right. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Nate Kipnis is with us on the Zoom machine, and see, he's got his fancy background, but his headset doesn't flop around like mine does. Because if you got a green screen there,
no,
that's it, huh?
That's it. I got like my junk behind me. I'll show you what I got.
Okay, there it is.
Normal stuff.
All right, I'm going to have to play with my background screen here and do weird images. I can have like my cat looming over me and about to pounce. Nate has been with us a number of times. It's so good to have you back here to talk about our homes, because here we are. We're all hunkered down in our homes. And Nate is with Kipnis Architecture Plus Planning, based in Evanston, Illinois. In the old days, we would just have you come into the studio, but here we are. This is the way it works now, and probably for a little while. Is this something that you've been thinking about? Obviously, something you think about all the time because you're an architect. You design homes. You want them to be efficient. You want them to be safe. Did something kick in when COVID-19 happened in the United States and in the world that made you focus on this a little more?
Well, like you said, architects in general have to think about these things, and we've been focusing on it for quite a long time. So there's been a whole aging in place component, healthy home, resilient design, and that's all sprouting from what I started with, which was sustainable design, at the beginning of my career. So they're all interrelated. They all make sense to do together.
Okay.
And they're all super important right now, especially.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you one of the things that happened, and we're going to talk about it on the show as soon as I can get Ron Cowgill, who I know is watching. And by the way, he enjoyed the music interlude. He said it was better than having the water running the whole time. That's an inside joke for those of you who watch our Facebook live stream. But Ron and his outfit came to my house, and they did insulation work this past winter. And this was after the last time you were on the show. I think we might have talked about it on the show before you were on last time. I can't tell you how amazed I am by everything that's happened. They finished at the beginning of February. So just a couple of weeks before all heck broke loose. And they added insulation to the house, and they put in new windows. And for one thing, I've noticed, it's much quieter here. It is so much quieter in the house. And I've watched my electric bill go down like this, and I'm watching my gas bill go down like this. And I'm thinking, that's got to be healthy. Well, it's healthy for my wallet, that's for sure. But how else is it healthy for me in terms of physically, in terms of disease and the kinds of things you want to do to protect your family?
So before I get to that, the other thing it is, hopefully, is more comfortable. So a lot of these things all interrelate to one another. It's not just saving money, and it's not just that it's quiet, which is great, and that actually helps with the comfort level.
And helping the comfort level reduces stress level.
Yeah. But as far as, so there are other aspects. So I don't want to just let everyone cut loose and do insulation and new windows, which are great. But then you also have to think about, do I have the correct air now coming in? Because you've now just changed the way the house works.
Yes.
So if you have a moldy basement, now you've insulated the house, and now you have potentially more mold in the house, or it's not filtering out as quick. So you need to look at your ventilation system and your air filtration system. Most homes don't really have a very good filtration system at all. So
no, I don't think we do. I think that's going to be next on the list, because I was looking at your article, and you go to MikeNovak.net and find the article that you wrote for and I don't have
for Next House Alliance. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
And as you start, our homes have always been our havens and sanctuaries, and now they're also our workplaces and learning centers.
Well, and that's one of the funny things that I've been asked about too, is wouldn't it be nice to have a really well-designed home office all of a sudden, and how important that is? And wouldn't it be nice to have a really good mud room where you can bring groceries in and do whatever you got to do to them, and then have bulk storage right there,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
just kind of like think these things through. And some other good ones are to have some kind of aging in place where you have the ability to have a bedroom on the first floor. It depends on your layout. You might already be in a ranch.
Yeah.
A lot of homes with a second floor, wouldn't it be nice to have a study that can convert into a master bedroom and then have a bathroom that works, have a zero threshold shower and other things like that,
Yeah.
correct
And as
width
you said, have
boards.
the blocking in the walls
Yeah,
for
have
later.
blocking already in when you're redoing a bathroom so that if you ever need to add handrails and grab bars, you can do that without ripping up everything. All of this adds up to good peace of mind.
Yeah.
Like, be able to like calmly go into a situation like we're in and know you've got things already set.
I'm looking at the air quality since we started there, and you start with air quality, and you talk a lot about air quality. You note that high performance homes require efficient air intake. The outside air is brought in through a high efficiency air to air heat exchanger that is combined with a HEPA grade air filter. A HEPA filter removes, this is the part that just blew me away. HEPA filter removes at least 99.97% of particles that are 0.3 microns in size. Now, by comparison, an N95 mask, and we've been talking about that for weeks, for comparison, only removes 95% of the 0.3 micron size particles. So your HEPA filter will do better than an N95 mask. I had no idea.
So the bad thing though is that little COVID virus is 0.1. So it's smaller than those
Okay,
filters.
well.
But I've been told as long as you don't have it cranked at the highest filtration speed, it'll catch it. But it's just one more little challenge that we got to think about.
So are you looking at a HEPA filter on a large external air filter, or are you talking about on the furnace intake?
Well, it depends on how your system is set up, but on the high performance homes we do, it's going to be in the air to air heat exchanger. That's constantly moving air through the house. And
But okay, how is that different from a furnace? Let's get this, because I have you talk about electric, and you talked about that the last time you were on the show, how it's nice to have electric and that gas has still got some problems associated with it. And I have a gas heated home.
Me
And
too. Yep.
as far as I know, the filter I'm going to use is the one I put into my furnace, and I know I can get different kinds. The important thing is to keep it clean, but I doubt that I can get this kind of air exchange that you're talking about.
so, yeah, these are potentially for different types of houses. So a typical older house has a heating and cooling system that has air just recirculating in the house, and it's actually relying on how leaky the home is to bring in fresh air. It's not
Yes.
exactly a great way to do it, but that's how it's been done for decades. And now, as we make these homes tighter and tighter, we need to bring air in a controlled fashion, and that's what the air to air heat exchanger does. And so while it's doing that, there's filtration systems that can be put on that. So that's really the key part of it.
Okay. So
Most homes are not going to have that currently. That's when you do an upgrade, that's something to definitely think about.
got it. Okay, got it. Because I was wondering myself, and I have one of those homes. For those people who have not heard me talk about it before, my home is 130 years old. What Ron and his crew did is they took the air exchange from, I think it was 15 exchanges an hour down to 7. So they cut it in half. All right. Which is remarkable. But I still have the carbon monoxide detector, and it sits at 0 because it's still a 130-year-old home, and the air's coming in and out more than the sealed homes that we build right now. Right, Nate?
So the high performance homes are going to have an air change of under 1.
Yeah.
That's just like night and day. And so when you just have that little air coming through, you need to bring it in. Like I said, you need to have a controlled way to bring it in and a way to filter it.
But for those of us who do live in 100-year-old homes or 50-year-old homes, is there anything we can do to improve that
I
air
mean, you can
quality?
certainly add a high MERV filter. That's a rating
Mhm.
system. The higher the number, the better. So like a MERV 13 is going to be really good, but you have to make sure your furnace can handle that. It's
Yeah.
going to be slowing the airflow down because it's got more
If
resistance.
you have an older
So
filter,
you
older
need,
furnace, that won't work too well.
I mean, you really need to talk to someone that can look at the thing as a holistic system and not, I mentioned this the last time I was on. When you do the installation and the windows, well, if you just do the windows, the heat doesn't care. It goes around the windows, goes to the wall. Now that you've done both, now
Just
you
like
need to look at your.
COVID-19 doesn't care. The
Yeah.
heat doesn't care either.
Well,
It goes around.
yeah, it's smarter than we would like it to be.
Yeah.
And then you need to look at the control system. So that's like a smart thermostat. And then you need to look at the air intake system. So there's like a whole different way to look at it. And what I don't want to have people do is just put one piece in and not understand the whole holistic system of what's going on.
Yeah, but again, okay, this is difficult because you look at it often from a project that's starting from scratch, and a lot of
Not
people
always, yeah.
what?
Not always. I mean, we do a lot of rehab work.
No, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. So, but you're looking, but as you say, you look at it in a holistic way, and a lot of people, the best they can manage is piecemeal. They're in a situation and they're trying to figure out, like I was, how do I just get back to where I can handle this and actually pay my gas bill and make it affordable. And that has happened now. We're actually talking about power security is one of the things you talk about. Ron and I are talking about putting some solar panels on because I was told years ago, don't even think solar until you get your insulation done. Well, guess what? The insulation is done. Now I can go that extra step and start doing these little other things. It's never going to be like a brand new home unless I gut it. And I'm not going to do that. But I can still make improvements, can't I?
Yeah, so I know where you're going with this. So what someone can do with a regular furnace in an existing house, and I don't remember the name of the product, but there's this, instead of a whole air-to-air heat exchanger, there's this system that you can put on the return duct that has a damper on a timer, and it's connected to the outdoors, and it turns the fan on periodically. You set it like for the time, like, okay, 1 minute every 15 minutes, I want this on, or, 1 minute every 60 minutes or whatever it is. And that brings in fresh air so that you are not, you've got this more tightly insulated home, and now it may start causing problems. So that is the cost-effective way. That's something like a $250 product, and it probably takes $250 to install or something like that. So that is going to be the least expensive way. And I can get you that, and you can put it on your website. I don't have the name of it.
Perfect. Well, one of the other things you did mention, and Mike, you started talking about this too, is the power security right now of things that we could be doing: battery backups, solar, purchasing from places like Hero Power.
Yeah, so I mean, after everyone has made their scary trips to the grocery store and they've squirreled away all this food, the worst thing that could happen now is the power go out, and have you absolutely freak out about that. So having a battery backup, or I would prefer not, but a gas generator would be another option. The thing you have to keep in mind is power outages tend to be seconds, minutes, maybe hours, but battery backup makes sense for that. But if it's longer than that, gas generators are the ones that do kind of minutes, hours, and days.
Yeah.
So
all right.
that's something you need to think about, what makes sense for you.
Hold that thought, Nate Kipnis. We'll bring you back a little bit. We're going to add in our meteorologist, Rick DeMaio, in the next segment as well. And we'll do just a couple more, and then we'll let you go. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Molecki. We're talking your home, making it healthy. We will be right back.
So real quick.
Yeah.
So one of the other things is just kind of like handles for faucets and doorknobs. I would not want to be a doorknob salesman right now. Scary shit. But if they're levers, or, hey, Star Trek, remember? But seriously, the faucets are motion sensor or they're levers. And I mean, I have heard stories of people living in situations where they share bathrooms. Can you imagine with knobs? Like, holy smokes.
That's just, it seems like such a inconsequential thing, and it's very consequential.
It's going to become probably code. that either touch-free or at least levers, like they're going to get rid of hand things.
Wow, touch-free, but though that has the opportunity. It's like the roll-up window on a car. When it goes bad, there's nothing you can do.
We have it, and my wife made me take the battery out because she hated it. So, but we at least we have a lever, like so that you can like hit it with the side of your hand,
or a foot lever.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm going to talk to Michael in the studio. Michael, are you getting Rick DeMaio on the line?
Rick is ready to go.
Okay, great. We'll bring him in the conversation. We'll kind of wrap up what we're talking to you, Nick.
Nate.
Nate, rather. Nick.
Yeah.
We had Nick on last week.
I have that all the time.
Do you?
I don't know my own name half the time. So.
Oh my goodness. So let's wrap this up. What do you think is that? You know, the conversation about the handles is good, but after airflow, after power, what's the next important thing?
Like great ventilation, natural daylighting, like to be cooped up in here like we all are. Like if you don't have correct circadian rhythm lighting that you see the sun changing during the day,
you
kind of lose your marbles a little bit. You know,
that's a really good point. That we'll bring that up then.
Yeah,
that sounds good.
And the storage. I like your thing on storage too.
Yeah, whatever
you
need.
You know, everybody's buying all this stuff, and they're already predicting the trends of canning and preserving going off the charts. Where do you put it all?
I feel like I'm living in a submarine that has just left port. Like I've got stuff everywhere.
That's a really good analogy. That's a fantastic analogy, actually. And sometimes the submarine surfaces, and that's like when you go out on your front porch, and so you can stand on the deck of the submarine. You can't really go.
Except they go to God knows where and pick up everything, including COVID-19.
Oh yeah, I'm terrified for our sailors out on the sea because I don't think we have a handle on this at all.
Thank God there's nothing else going on in the world. Military. Man.
Kim Jong-un is dead, so let's move on here. Oh wait, no, he's not.
No, he's back. We think he's back, although he's
a TV model.
He's bigger than he was the last time we saw him.
Just the weirdest thing ever is his disappearance.
I think we need to send Rodman back over to check him.
Oh my gosh.
Is this going to be like the Paul is dead? It's really not him?
It's really not. So, all right, stand by. We've got about, I think, like 30 seconds or something.
And I want to talk to you, not now, obviously, but a little bit about the well standard and stuff at some point, Kate. Nate, I might give you a call.
Okay. I've been meaning to start taking my test on that. I want to get certified.
They have a special offer right now.
I know that.
Which I saw yesterday. I was like,
well, they're this close to being a member of Next House. So
really want to talk to you about that.
All right, stand by, folks.
Tell you why. A little common sense and a lot of concern for those around us can go a long way. We're all in this together.
All right, stand by.
Gardening, the environment, and green living.
It's the Mike Nowak Show.
With Peggy Malecki.
On WCGO Radio.
1590 AM and 95.9 FM.
You're not dead.
I know times are pretty strange. Just relax, take it easy. We're stuck at home through no one's fault. There's no place we have to go. Love your girl, settle down. If you want, watch some TV, look at me. My beer is cold and I'm happy.
Look at me, my beer is cold and I'm happy. All right, that's another one of those great parodies of songs. Yeah, Cat Stevens parody there. And welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. You know, someday I'm going to have to do a report on I think I'm the guy out there looking at every single parody on the used tubes, and I might be the only one who has a grasp of the whole of that world. So I might have to do a big national report on that. Hey, we've got Nate Kipnis, and I got his name right this time on the never mind. He's on the Zoom with us, and we also have meteorologist Rick DeMaio, I hear, is somewhere in the background. Rick, are you there?
I'm here, Mike. How are you?
Hey,
good.
Rick.
Have you made your move?
I made my move. We're all set.
And
Wow.
happy birthday a couple days late, too.
Yeah, thanks, Peg. Yeah, that was on Thursday. The move was on Wednesday during that monsoon. And we're still living and eating out of boxes, but that goes away eventually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and here you are. We're talking to an architect, Nate Kipnis, about your home and what you can do to make it better. Now, is yours is this a condo? Oh, well, you're laughing, Rick. Why?
That,
That's not a good sign. What?
Too late for that. I already moved in.
Okay, so it is what it is. Where you just came to, I take it.
Yeah. No, it's more room. Before we had 2 floors. Now we have 3 floors, and there's an outdoor patio on the first floor and an outdoor patio on the 3rd floor. So there's a lot of light, a lot of room, but it still lacks closet space. So that's always the one thing that every architect has to think about. And next time they build the place like this, they have to give us more room to get our armoire up the stairs. We couldn't make the corner, so they had to hoist it from the outdoor patio through the 2nd floor bedroom window. That was not very pleasant to watch.
Oh my goodness. I bet that stuff, Nate. Do you think about that when you're designing homes?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I was in a condo, a 1920s condo, and I remember someone had a piano being moved up to the 3rd floor. They had to take this triple window out, and then the crane brought it in.
Wow.
Like, wow. I hope we were living there for a while.
That's common, without a doubt, because the odd size of a piano. But this was an armoire, and I even remember when we first looked at the place, I'm like, I ain't gonna make it. And everybody kept telling me it's gonna make it, and sure enough, it didn't make it.
Talk to the developers.
Yeah.
And how old is?
There were 4 of us. What's that?
How old is the building?
1992. So they
should have known better.
Planning when they,
no excuse.
Yeah, they should have known better.
Yeah.
So there were 4 of us. There were 2 people on the bottom, 1 person on the 2nd floor, and I was the 4th one. They were moving, and I was praying.
Okay, that's our meteorologist Rick DeMaio and the weather in the apartment and the new place is cloudy with a chance of something falling on your head.
Like an armoire.
Okay, before we let Nate go, though,
and we have a comment from Skeet too. I wanted to bring up that's relevant to this. Skeet from Bartlett Tree Experts says the right tree in the right place can also help moderate home temperatures.
Absolutely.
So as you're planning your landscape, figure out where you're going to strategically put things like trees.
Deciduous trees on the south. Yep.
I'm sorry, what was that? Deciduous trees on the south?
On the south side, that helps shade the house when you need it, and then the leaves drop and you get some passive solar coming in.
There you go. And that was the other thing we were talking about during the break, which a point that you made that I think is very important in terms of making your place livable is light. Not just, we were talking air, but light's really important too, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you're cooped up in a house and you really need good natural daylight. And the reason is that it's got what's called circadian rhythm lighting. It changes, the color of the lighting changes throughout the day, and your brain definitely picks that up. There are lighting systems that mimic that. Like even your iPhone or whatever, when you go to bed at night, all of a sudden it turns a different color. That's because of that. So really, really important. And the other thing related to that is natural ventilation. So to get a really nice airflow and not, get toxins in the house, or just to feel a little more attached to the outdoors.
Yeah. All right. Listen, I want folks to go to my website, MikeNovak.net. How to Have a Healthy Home is the piece that I wrote, and it has the link to the piece that Nathan Kipnis wrote. And of course, he is the principal at Kipnis Architecture Plus Planning. Nate, it's so good to have you on the show again. We have to continue this conversation. I think it's, for a lot of people, like for me, for 20 years, it was a far off thing to get any of this done. But finally, it got done. And I'm very happy. And not all of it. Obviously, I have to now look at other issues, and I'm going to do that and continue to talk to you about this.
Yeah, be happy to come back. That thing is called an air cycler, by the way. It attaches to your furnace.
Perfect.
So, air cycler.
What is that? An
Air cycler.
Air cycler.
Air cycler. Okay, good.
Right.
I used to have a bicycle called an air cycler.
Note has been made.
All right, Nate, you have a great Sunday. It's a beautiful day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
All righty. Welcome back. We've got still our meteorologist, Rick DeMaio, on the line. His move is done. He's living out of boxes, but you brought some beautiful weather. And as I mentioned to you, the other day. We are now being heard this part of the show in Rapid City, South Dakota. I don't know if you've ever been out that way, have you?
Oh gosh, yeah. Probably 6 or 7 times. I've driven through that area on my way out to the Tetons. Stayed out there twice, 2013 and 2015 in Wall, South Dakota. My trip through the Badlands, and I have not yet been through Custer State Park or the Black Hills, but believe it or not, that is our plan to do later on this summer. So most people look at South Dakota and go, "My God, it's boring." I think it's a beautiful state, and it's kind of
and the Black Hills are gorgeous.
Oh yeah, no, Black Hills is one of my favorite places in the country.
Yeah, and what's interesting, Mike and Peg, is it's literally a state divided by the Missouri River. So the eastern half of the state is green, and then once you get past the Missouri River, you get into the downslope area of the Black Hills. All of a sudden, the terrain looks a little bit darker, and I shouldn't say darker, but less green, a little bit browner. And then, man, you get into parts of southwest South Dakota and the northwest part, and you might as well be in parts of the desert Southwest. So it really is amazing from a standpoint of not only vegetation, but also precipitation and temperature. You get tremendous amount of downslope winds. That's the Chinook wind that comes in off the Black Hills. But at the same time, if you get, a mid-latitude cyclone sitting over northern South Dakota or southern North Dakota, you get the right amount of northwesterly winds. You get massive upslope, and they have seen 20, 30 inches of snow as early as the first week of October in the area of Leeds, South Dakota, and Rapid City. Not as much there, but the terrain elevation difference produces just phenomenal amounts of snow, not only early but also late. And it's one of the more interesting parts of the United States due to its proximity to Gulf of Mexico moisture from the south, and then also obviously Arctic air from the north, and then the Black Hills produces some really amazing amounts of local precipitation trends, and also historic flooding. The horrible flood back in the the early 1970s, where they had nearly 20 inches of rain and killed many people as well. And clearly they've done adaptation and mitigation efforts to keep that from happening, but every once in a while, massive precipitation events are catastrophic in that part of the state.
It's interesting. Often we talk about our weather in Chicago here, and then if you're in Detroit, you can expect to get that the next day, and if you're in Pennsylvania, you'll get it in another 36 hours or something like that. But it doesn't seem to hold coming out of Rapid City. They seem to have their own sort of climate that's unlike anything that's going to end up here in Chicago.
Yeah, you almost have to say what's in Sioux Falls could hit Chicago in 24 hours, and that's obviously on the other side of the state. But one thing that's interesting is you go from Minnesota into South Dakota, and that speed limit sign on I-94 goes up to 80 miles an hour, and you go, wow, this is great. And next thing you know, 12 hours later, you're still driving in the state of South Dakota. So the speed limit doesn't get you from one part of the state faster. But, man, the difference between one side of South Dakota and the other side is almost two different climate regimes. So you're right about that. What Rapid City gets, Chicago doesn't normally get. What Sioux City gets and Sioux Falls gets, we'll get here.
All right, that is meteorologist Rick DeMaio, and we have to take a short break here, and we will come back and talk a little bit more about what's going on. I saw an article the other day that does not bode well for temperatures in 2020. We'll talk about that. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Please stick around for our final segment.
The impact of COVID-19 continues to affect
Oh, this is scary, Rick. Several chances for frost and freeze. Aye.
Yeah, I really don't care to talk about temperatures for 2020. I don't really believe that article. But
you don't? Okay.
What's going to happen around here the next 6 to 10 days? It is going to turn mighty cold.
Why?
So I hope no one. What's that?
Why is it getting so cold again? It's like this spring has just been weird. Oh, well, it's obviously weird, but.
You know what eventually happened was the really fast zonal flow across the northern Pacific
broke down about mid-March, and that allowed pieces of the polar vortex to drift southward. So what we're getting now is basically kind of a winter-like pattern. So once those westerlies broke down and allowed the polar vortex to pinch off, and the one that's coming that was actually going to be two different pieces that come through eastern sections of Canada over the next 10 to 14 days. And it's going to just be unbelievably below normal from a standpoint of temperatures, probably for the next 14 days. I mean, you
Is that
could
going to
actually
be?
expect rain and what's that?
I was just going to say, is that going to be just now? Is that one of those things like it's not going to happen at the Black Hills, but it will happen in Chicago?
It will not happen in the Black Hills, no. So it's going to be basically from Wisconsin, Illinois, all the way down into Tennessee, North Carolina, and obviously up into New England. So
Wow.
yeah, this is going to be breaking records. So the chances for
Now, is
freezes
that one of
will
those
be next Saturday, Tuesday, and probably Wednesday as well.
Holy smoke. Okay. Well, we'll
Yeah,
talk
and-
about that then.
And we are live on Facebook volume-wise right now, by the way.
Are we good?
Yes, we are.
So people getting your extra shot of Rick DeMille here. That's amazing. So we don't have, you know what? I'll just tell folks, you know, or you can just say, I don't believe that article. We're moving on. And or just
yeah, I mean, you tease it, so we got to talk about it. But I just sent you a whole bunch of stuff you can
Yeah,
scan through.
that's why I said, wow, frost and freeze. I thought we were done with that.
It looked like we were, but now the pattern has definitely changed. It's getting really, really warm out west and in western Canada. But for us, it turns mighty cold. It's just a good thing that this isn't like March. Yeah, this is really ridiculous. It'll be nice today up until about 6 or 7 o'clock, and then the pneumonia front comes through.
Yeah,
Yeah, I heard
like
that.
9 o'clock, but they moved it, I guess.
Yeah, and other people are calling it a pneumonia front as well. So
yeah, pneumonia front means that it comes in through like from the northeast, and you'll literally see temperatures drop about 20 degrees because the lake is still only in the mid to upper 40s. It'll be nice up until about 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it'll literally drop about 20 degrees in about 10 minutes.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yep. So if you want to let your people know, probably not to do much planning outside.
Well, you know, we've got the last 2 days we put our tomatoes out in the backyard, you know, temporarily, nothing serious. You just put them on the sidewalk. We'll be bringing them in before that front comes through today.
Yeah, mine are still under the lights. I've been moving the kale in and out, but
Tonight won't be a problem. Yeah,
kale's
tonight
been
will get
going in
down
and out, but
to
not
50, it won't
tomatoes.
be freeze tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight will be fine.
All right, we've got stand by.
Yep, you have 10 plus promo.
Okay. Happy gardening and stay safe.
This is Steve Levin, the Dice Man from Roll the Dice, Sunday nights at 8 o'clock on Smart Talk, WCGO, AM 1590 and 95.9 FM.
A little bit of longing for the sun, a little bit of eating just for fun, a lot of it of hand soap so we're clean. Every day's the same as quarantine.
COVID number 19. Welcome back to the mic. I thought that was a pretty good parody.
Yeah.
That was very fun. And they only had like 4,000 views. And I wrote on YouTube, I said, you guys deserve better than that. How come you only have 4,000 views on this?
And that one will be an earworm.
It already is. Hey, welcome to the Keep Eating Healthy campaign on the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. If you're an omnivore, but you're seeing headlines about the safety of workers in meat plants, and that makes you unhappy, there's an alternative. Cedar Valley Sustainable Farm CSA is a meat CSA. You know, the animals were raised with respect for them and the earth. And now, during the COVID-19 emergency, they're taking a la carte orders. Go to the Keep Eating Healthy campaign at my website for more information. Backyard Patch herbs are all locally grown and they're chemical free. Kathleen and I made an excellent cauliflower soup this week with their dried herb soup mix. You can also get herbal teas and bread mixes. There's no gluten, no salt, no preservatives. They even provide recipes and other information on their website. Again, go to Keep Eating Healthy campaign. And at Prairie Fruits Farm and Creamery in Champaign, Illinois, it's been a good spring, including their 100 goats that they're milking. It means lots of cheese, lots of great cheese, including fresh chive and lemon zest chèvre. And I learned in the first hour what chèvre is. It means goat milk, or it means goat. Then there's Little Bloom on the Prairie, their very first batch of goat milk camembert style cheese, and their fruit leather trio, which they also call Fruit Wowzers. Click on the Keep Eating Healthy logo at MikeNovak.net to order from all these great operations. Help us support them while they support us. Go to MikeNovak.net for more details.
We have one other thing to touch on too.
Yeah, what's that?
While you're at the website, go check out the plant sales link.
Yes. If you're in the Chicago area, we have the most comprehensive list of plant sales in the area. They are still going on, believe it or not. And a lot of them are delivery or drop off. And you can still get stuff in the ground. And as we talked to earlier in the show, we talked to Gary Oppenheimer. This is a time to get some veggies, get them started, grow your own, and donate some if you possibly can. We've got Rick DeMaio on the phone, our meteorologist, and we were talking in the break. You didn't hear it unless you were listening on Facebook, about some weird weather coming our way. I mentioned at the beginning of it, I saw a study that said that 2020 was on track to be the hottest year ever, maybe eclipsing 2016. You're not so sure of that.
Well, I think there's still a lot to be, determined from a standpoint of how the sea surface temperatures might actually cool down a little bit. They are on track, I think, to give us at least something in the top 5. But I don't know. It's still a long ways away, and even if it is in the top 5, that's still big news. So I think we'll just stick with most likely top 5. Whether it's going to be the warmest, we'll see about that. And I think that's only because we had, anomalies were really high in the month of January and then also February. But what I'm looking at, Mike, over the next week to 10 days is several lobes of much, much colder air than we've seen around here in recent weeks to begin to dip southward across the Great Lakes and into the southeast. And when you start to have, average temperatures now, when you get into the middle of May, close to 65 to 70 degrees, this type of air mass could actually produce both daytime temperatures and nighttime temperatures of nearly 15 to 20 degrees below normal. So anytime you get these out of season cold outbreaks, it takes what was a slightly near average spring and brings it way below normal. So we'll see how that works out. But the standpoint of longer term, right now, I'm just thinking the next 6 to 10 days, we get right back into a very, very cold pattern. Nice yesterday, nice today. This will probably be the warmest day in the Midwest for the next 2 weeks. Places further west, out across the Plain States, are probably not going to see this cold spell, though.
Yeah, so if you're listening in Rapid City, and we were talking about Rapid City, and you get this show 6 days later, next Saturday, we're broadcasting it on a Sunday, you're going to say, I don't know what Rick was talking about. Well, that's not happening there. And this is one of the anomalies of the way the North American landmass is set up, isn't it, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, you could get, I've seen sometimes spring arrive earlier in western Minnesota and North Dakota before it gets into the Midwest, only because, we have Lake Michigan literally right on our doorstep. And I still say places in like northern New York and upstate or up northern areas of New England, man, their springs take forever to get there. But you get out into the Plain States where you get that warming either off the snowy mountains of the Bighorns of Wyoming, or obviously the Rocky Mountains and the Bitterroots of Idaho and Montana. And you can get 60, 70 degrees in early March as long as there's no snow on the ground. The good thing about that part of the country is the snow that falls is fairly dry, so it'll not only melt but also evaporate, whereas the snow that falls here in the Midwest gets kind of that crusty, icy, conglomeration where it takes a long time to go away. And also, the Great Lakes are pretty chilly. Lake water temperature, last I checked, 48. What was an interesting thing that happened recently is they literally tried to rebuild the lakefront both at Lighthouse Beach and at Lee Street Beach. Last Monday and Tuesday, they put
in
I don't know
Evanston.
how many tons of sand to rebuild the beach, and by Wednesday, it was all gone. And
Wow.
I wish they would watch weather forecasts a little bit further, because all of the money and all of the effort that they put into it was for naught. And that's not the way it should happen. They should wait until maybe the 1st of June before they start thinking about rebuilding the beaches here in the state of Illinois.
Yeah, we're going to be covering that in the next couple of weeks about the shoreline erosion and how it continues because it's so wet here, and boy, it's a dangerous situation along the shores of Lake Michigan. But I want to emphasize, because we're getting ready for the forecast here, garden centers have opened up in the last few days with social distancing and drop-offs and that thing, so people are buying their plants. But we got to warn them that, as you say, the next 2 weeks are not going to be pretty for gardeners in Chicago, are they?
Yeah, and that's a good point, Mike, is because I think everybody has been holding off on doing what they normally do like 2 or 3 weeks ago. They're going to try to get everything in the ground, and then all of a sudden they're going to go, wait a minute, not only a frost, but a potential freeze. There's going to be one next Saturday, and there's going to be another 2 probably next Tuesday and Wednesday. We mentioned freeze, we mean 32 degrees or below. Now, if you live within, say, a couple of blocks or a half mile of the lakefront, you're going to be okay, but anywhere else, the bets are off on that. I know you want to get stuff in the ground, but you may want to wait a couple more weeks for that.
Okay. You've got, give me 10 seconds. Are we going to have any rain this week, too, on top of that?
Next couple of chances of showers late Monday and then again on Tuesday and the Wednesday, but rainfall total less than a half inch, a lot less than the 4.5 inches we had last week.
Okay. And again, it's going to get cold, folks, so protect your plants. I want to thank everybody on the show today. Gary Oppenheimer, Nate Kipnis, Rick DeMaio. Thanks to Michael on the board, and Randall and Kayla and Hannah. Until next time, go green or
go home.
Yes, it's over. How'd you like it?
I don't know. I slept through the whole thing.
Well, you didn't miss much.